Jayo Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopi Jana Baharava Girvardhani. Gopi Jana Baharava Girvardhani. Yashodananda Braja Jana Randana. Yashodananda Braja Jana Randana. Yamuna Dhiravanachari. Yamuna Dhiravanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhani. Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhani. Yashodananda Braja Jana Randana. Yashodananda Braja Jana Randana. Yamuna Dhiravanachari. Yamuna Dhiravanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shishi Gauri Sai Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the Summa devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories, Shri Shri Guru Garanga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai. His Grace Anuttama Prabhu Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. We are extremely honored and happy to have very dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada, His Grace Anuttama Prabhu. Anuttama Prabhu joined ISKCON in Denver, Colorado in 1975. He was searching for various spiritual paths and then coming in touch with devotees, he decided to give a try. And he committed that unless I get something better than this path, I will not leave this path. He was not committed to this path, but he thought that let me try. But if I get anything better, I will definitely leave this and go to other path. And till today, he is serving at lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhu later on became temple president of Denver, and he developed the preaching there. And since 2000, he has been doing service as ISKCON GBC. And as ISKCON GBC, he also is a communication director, international communication director. So all over the world, so many important things happen. So he's one person who is in touch with all the happenings in the world, and he's a represents Prabhupada and ISKCON's uh, views on important events happening in the world. He also conducts many wonderful seminars, courses, and workshops like leadership and training. Then he is also a very active member of Guru Services Committee in ISKCON. He also conducts a course for training gurus in ISKCON. He also does course for training disciples in ISKCON. He's concerned for the welfare of ISKCON, and he wants to see that how ISKCON becomes a wonderful organization, can go on for next 10,000 years, tangibly affecting the and influencing the lives of millions in the world, billions in the world. So he's also very active in interfaith communication. He conducts interfaith dialogues uh, uh, along with Christians and Muslims and other these things. So we are very honored and happy to have his wonderful association. So let us welcome His Grace Anuttama Prabhu to Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Temple by loudly chanting 3 times. Ribo, Ribo, Ribo. He is our one of very dear teachers. He has been always encouraging and inspiring us. So we are very happy to get his association.
Acharya Ratna Prabhu is one of my former students. So if I get any credit in this life, Krishna will say, well, you're a rascal, but you taught Acharya Ratna a few things. So we'll give you credit for that. You also, yeah? Leadership. Communications, leadership. Again, communication. Twice communications. Wow. So don't make any mistakes, they'll blame me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was thinking maybe this was like a Gurukula because sometimes in the Gurukulas between kirtan and class, all the boys go, they get a little Mahaprasadam, and then they come back. So after kirtan, everybody left. There's just a few of us here. I was thinking, so where's the sweet balls? Where's the burfi? And then everyone came back with a smile. I thought, yeah, they've definitely been having some Mahaprasadam someplace. So we're reading from Canto 10, Chapter 60, which is entitled, interestingly, Krishna Teases Rukmini, text number 38. Who wrote it on the board? Who wrote? Who wrote on the board? Yeah, he's very quick. He started after the kirtan, and somehow he got it all there. Very fast. Don't become proud, though. There might be a little mistake there. We'll have to point it out. Tvam vai samasta purusha artha maya phala. Excuse me, we'll just read the lines, it's long. Tvam vai samasta purushartha maya phalatma. Yadvanchaya sumatayo vishitanti krichnam. Tesham vibho sumuchito bhavata samajaha. Pumsastriyasta ratayo sukadukinorna. Tvam vai samasta purushata maya phalatma. Yadvanchaya sumatayo vishijanti Krishnam Tesham vibo sumuchito bhavata samajaha Pumsastriyastaratayo sukadukinorna Tvam vai samasta purushartamaya falatma Yadvanchaya sumatayo vishrijanti Krishnam Tesham vibo sumuchito bhavata samajaha Pamsastriyastaratayo sukadukinorna There's only one lady. Mataji, would you like to chant? Word meanings. Tvam, you. Vai, indeed. Samasta, all. Purusha, of human life. Artha, of the goals. Maya, comprising. Phala, of the ultimate goal. Atma, the very self. Ya, for whom? Vanchaya, out of desire. Sumataya, intelligent persons. Vishrijanti, discard. Krishnam, everything. Tesham, for them. Vibho, O omnipotent one. Samuchitaha, appropriate. Bhavataha, your. Samajaha, association. Pumsa, of a man. Striya, and a woman. Cha, and. Ratayo, who are attracted to each other in mutual lust. Sukadukino, who experience material happiness and distress. Not. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. You are the embodiment of all human goals and are yourself the final aim of life. Desiring to attain you, O all-powerful Lord, and intelligent persons abandon everything else. It is they who are worthy of your association, not men and women absorbed in the pleasure and grief resulting from their mutual lust. Please repeat. You are the embodiment of all human goals. And you are yourself the final aim of life. Desiring to attain you, O all-powerful Lord, intelligent persons abandon everything else. It is they who are worthy of your association, not men and women absorbed in the pleasure and grief resulting from their mutual lust. Purport. Here, Queen Rukmini refutes Lord Krishna's statement in text 15. Yayor atmasamambitam janmasya yakiriti bhavaha tayor vivaho maitricha notam madhammayo kvachit. Marriage and friendship are proper between two people who are equal in terms of their wealth, birth, influence, physical appearance, and capacity for good progeny, but never between a superior and an inferior, end quote. In fact, only those who have given up all such material conceptions of sense gratification and have taken exclusively to the Lord's loving service can understand who their real friend and companion is, Lord Sri Krishna himself. Om Gyanatamiandasha Anjana Shalakaya Chakshur Minitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadam Yam Tadati Swapanantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So first, just like to say it's very nice to be back here. Is it Newtown, Calcutta, or Calcutta, Newtown? Newtown, Calcutta. Okay, it's very nice to be here. With the the COVID, so many things were locked down, and many of us weren't able to travel. So I was locked down in the U.S., wasn't able to come to India or anywhere else. And last time I was here, there was a Charya Ratna and some cows. Pretty much. Now there's Acharya Ratna, there's cows, there's Gornitai, there's the temple, there's the wall, there's the ashram, and so many Vaishnava flowers from Newtown, Calcutta. So it's very nice to see all the devotees here. Much appreciated to see the progress that's there. And I understand now we have 25 acres, a bit more to go. It was reminding me, I was just thinking recently, I was some project where it was all nicely developed. And I was thinking that, devotees that come and relish these developed programs, they're benefiting from the hard work and the sacrifices and the devotees of those that came before. And also sometimes they're kind of thinking, oh, I wish I was here like in the pioneering days, Like I was in Mayapur and just came from yesterday. And Prabhupada's Bhajan Kuntir is there. And I was speaking with one devotee, Shudi Prabhu, who's from USA, and he was telling me he was here and that the Bhajan Kuntir, that was the only building that was there. That was Mayapur. And when Prabhupada came, everybody moved out of the building and Prabhupada stayed there. And then the other times, they were using that was the only structure. And it's there now. And then after that, I remember when the wall came in, there was big gate. It was big gate. You walked through the gate, to see rice fields. Big fancy gate and rice fields. It was like outside there was rice fields. You walk through the gate, there's more rice fields, you know. But, you know, Prabhupada had this vision and he gave it to others. And then, of course, the Lotus building came up with first one. And then I remember I came right when I think they first opened the long wall. At that point, it was said to be the longest building in Bengal. It was like big plus. You know, we had the longest building in Bengal. And then so many things developed from there. So now people come, there's so many facilities are there, and it's expanding. And in one sense, it's also Pioneer Days, but it's not like it was Pioneer Days then. So you're all pioneers here. There's a very exciting time in Newtown, Kolkata, because, you know, you look out and you see fields, you know, and you see, well, at least the Calcutta temple, the other Calcutta, at least they're storing their Rath carts here, right? At least something is happening here, you know. We're getting, the dust of Lord Jagannath is there. But you see, you know, the progress is coming up, and actually it's very exciting. So we should appreciate that those that are pioneering, just like Prabhupada, he pioneered. He went across the ocean, there was nothing, absolutely nothing. It's described like in the Lilamrita, sometimes he would give prasadam after class, and prasadam was one apple. They would cut up the apple. It wasn't just because that's sufficient, okay, which it is, it's prasadam, but it's because that's what they had. They had an apple. And they didn't have, you know, fancy drum players. You know, they had a bongo drum. And they had the inside of a piano. And people would bring all kinds of crazy instruments. But whatever it was, you know, they had kirtan with that because the holy name was so powerful. The facilities didn't matter. But Prabhupada very much wanted facilities. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted nice facilities. Why? Because people who are in the material consciousness, they can't immediately step into spiritual life. They can't step into austerity. They can't step into some kind of renunciation. They can barely step in any kind of bhakti unless there's facilities. So our job as devotees is to make facilities for others to smooth their path. Just like I just taught a course in Mayapur. One of the sections is on facilitation. How do you facilitate a meeting? How do you facilitate a conversation? And the word facilitate, it comes from, I believe, a French word, maybe something before that. But facile, which means to make easy. So you facilitate a meeting. How do you make the meeting easier? How do you help people listen to each other? How do you make sure there's, you know, drinks and snacks and things like that? Makes the meeting more easy. Have a flip chart. Make the meeting more easy. So this temple, this project is to facilitate other people becoming Krishna conscious. And of course you know, Prabhupada's seeing you, us, as the people he's trying to facilitate. But our job is to see that we're here as servants of Gaura Nitai to facilitate others. And if we feel like that, if we remember that, two things will happen. One, we'll be very careful to not ever abuse our position. Because it's very easy, because we have this materialistic mentality. It's very easy to start thinking, because a materialistic person thinks everything's for me. You know, you wake up, you go to kindergarten, and you look around the room, all the other 5-year-olds, and you think like, oh, I'm bigger than he is. I'm tougher than that one. Boy, I better be careful. This guy looks bigger than me. Even the little brain is calculating about, you know, who's going to get the truck, right? Who's going to enjoy the material opulence. And as we grow older, you know, you get a degree so you can control more of the material energy. There's that one nice story. Prabhupada was in Japan meeting with the publishers of Dai Nippon, the first Bhagavad Gita published. And there's a big meeting with all the Japanese executives. And at the end of it, all the VIPs left. And they left one man there from this Japanese company to escort Prabhupada and his servants out. So as was the custom then, especially with the Japanese, they, you know, everybody has their business cards. So when they got up, their business cards were sitting on the table. And Prabhupada, never missing an opportunity to preach, he asked this one junior executive, so what's your goal in life? What's your goal? So he didn't say anything. He just picked up all the business cards, or maybe he had them with him. So it's like the chief executive, the president, the executive vice president, the vice president, the supervisor, and him. So he shows Prabhupada these cards. Prabhupada says, what's your goal in life? And he takes the card, his card, from the bottom, and he puts it on top. So in this way, he explained to Prabhupada what his goal was in life. So everyone's thinking like that. So we still have those tendencies, which we're purifying as devotees. And we have to be very cautious that we don't think the facilities that Krishna gave are for me, but remember, they're there for me to use because I'm his servant. You know, he gave this beautiful temple, and he gives us nice prasadam, and management here is so conscientious. There's enough red mats for every single person that wants one. That's chanting japa. I like to chant japa in the samadhi and Prabhupada. You got to get, if you want a mat, you got to get there early. You know? Sometimes I chant with my chadar over my head, but I was realizing actually now, because I have so much gray hair, if I don't cover my head, everybody thinks you're an old man. They bring you a pillow. So even if you get there late, you still get a pillow. But if you're younger, you better get there early to get a pillow. But here, everybody gets a pillow. So that's nice management to take care of the devotees. But we have to be careful to always remember, our job is to facilitate others. Sometimes bringing other people to Krishna consciousness seems like a burden. In fact, I was at a meeting one time, just a few years after Srila Prabhupada left the planet in Vrindavan. We used to have the Mayapur Vrindavan retreat. Everyone would come from around the world. We go to Mayapur 2 weeks, and then Vrindavan for 2 weeks. Or some years, Vrindavan and then Mayapur. So so many devotees were in Prabhupada's rooms in Vrindavan, and one senior leader, I think maybe Brahmachari was one of the temple presidents, somebody, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there, and maybe some other sannyasis. So this one devotee, he said, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, how is it when we, especially those foreigners, when we come to the temples in India, with big festival, devotees from India and from, maybe not Russia in those days, but from India, South America, North America, Africa, all over the world, everybody comes together. Said it's the best kirtans, it's the best classes, it's the best prasadam. It's so inspiring, and then we have to go home, and we have to deal with neophyte devotees, and so many opposing elements, and so many headaches, and so many problems. And he was kind of saying, can't we just stay here? Yeah. Can't we just stay here with Radha Shama Sundar and be blissful? And Tamal Krishna gave a very nice answer, I remember, so many years later. When he said, you know, it's so difficult. We come here, we get inspired, and then we have to go home and deal with so many problems. And Tamal Krishna said, yes, this is Prabhupada's program. This is Prabhupada's program. We come together, we get inspired, we hear Bhagavatam class, we do seva, we see the deities, we have that kirtan. And then with that inspiration, we share it with others. That's Prabhupada's program. So we always have to keep that in mind. And we have to a little bit be a check and balance on each other to make sure we maintain that purity. Especially as years go by and maybe we become a little senior. You know, I know that here generally, right? Everybody, you start with white if you're like, you know. Prabhupada joked one time, there was some issue in 1976. There was one sannyasi. There was one point, there was something to not have the ladies live in the temple. The GBC was very influenced by some senior sannyasis. So they passed a resolution. All the grahastas, all the women have to move out of the temples. So the presidents went to Prabhupada. They said, Prabhupada, this will never work. It's going to crush the movement all around the world. So Prabhupada said, forget it. And to those that know the history, Prabhupada overturned it. He told Tamal Krishna Maharaj, you're completely wrong on this. This is not our Krishna conscious principle. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, I feel so terrible, Prabhupada, I should just go to China. Prabhupada said, that is a very good idea. So, you know, Prabhupada is amazingly wonderful. He simultaneously chastised him, isolated him from everybody else, and sent one of the most powerful preachers in ISKCON to one untouched area of the world. And today, you know, with so many things going on in the China Yatra, it's a difficult place, but still, he started it. Tamal Krishna started it. So I mention that because we always have to be very careful to remember that we're servants of the servants of the servant, and not that the temple is just for the sannyasis or just for the brahmacharis or just for the Prabhupada disciples or just for the sadhakas. This temple is for the lowly meat eater that walks across the street and walks in and goes, what's this place all about? That's what this temple's for. Radhe Shyam Prabhu in Pune, he tells a very nice story. I've heard him say it a couple times. Actually, I heard it secondhand. So it may not be completely accurate, but it's reasonably accurate. So he would, was president there. Sometimes the phone would ring and he would pick up the phone. So one time the phone rang and he picked it up. Yes, can I help you? Hare Krishna. And the man that answered said, is this such and such? Is this the whatever, the photocopy place? And he said, no, this is Hare Krishna temple. He said, oh, I called the wrong number. He said, no. You called the right number. And he began somehow preaching to him. She began preaching that actually the Hare Krishna temple is a wonderful place. You should come by. Who needs photocopies? You need Krishna. Whatever he told them. And the man came by and started coming regularly. Now he's a devotee in the community, So we have to have that vision. That's Prabhupada's vision, Prabhupada's in New York City. He's walking down the street, and, some guy with a big beard walks up to him and says, are you from India? And he says, yes. And I think he even asked him, I think Prabhupada even said something, are you from India? No, I'm from New York. That's how he made some of his first disciples. He just bumped into people. But he would invite them. And he would invite everybody. If you read some of the new books, like Shama Sundar Prabhu has his 3-volume book. And sometimes Prabhupada would go to these places. It's amazing. Like Prabhupada, probably most of you heard, like when Prabhupada went to San Francisco, they organized something called the Mantra Rock Dance. This is like all the big rock and roll bands from San Francisco were there. Devotees in San Francisco were saying this is a great way to spread Krishna consciousness. Even the devotees in New York were saying, Prabhupada, you can't go there. It's a rock concert. And there was a debate. The New York were a little more conservative. They've been devotees for like 3 months more, so they were more senior. So they had a lot of wisdom. They said, Prabhupada, Swamiji, I think still Swamiji, you can't go there. And but they said, Prabhupada, Swamiji, this is going to make money. It's going to introduce Krishna consciousness to so many people. So Prabhupada went and, chanted. And what's interesting, Prabhupada himself didn't even lead the chanting. Do you know who led the chanting? Allen Ginsberg, who maybe he was a vegetarian, maybe. I don't know if he was, but he didn't follow any other principles, none. He was, pretty, by Vaishnava standards, pretty degraded person. But Prabhupada saw he's an influential person. If he chances, it will encourage the other people to chant. And Prabhupada was friends with him. He was very friendly with him. He donated, the first harmonium in ISKCON was donated by Allen Ginsberg. So Prabhupada was very grateful for his service. But Prabhupada went to this place, and, there's young boys and young girls, and they're dancing, and, marijuana and so many things. And then Prabhupada stayed for some time. And then as he was walking out, anybody know what he said? Very famous. What? Yes, he said, this is no place for a brahmachari. But still, he went there. He wasn't a brahmachari. He was a sannyasi. Sannyasi is higher than a brahmachari. Isn't it? But higher than a sannyasi is a preacher. Founder acharya, somebody who's doing everything for the purpose of trying to bring others to Krishna consciousness. And that wasn't the worst place. Shamasundar says some story about Prabhupada was invited to like some kind of bookstore hippie hangout. He said he walked in, it was just a bunch of people laying around completely intoxicated, like a Chinese opium den or something like that. It was just really totally mode of ignorance. Prabhupada went in, gave kirtan, gave class, went home. Maybe it awakened some people. Prabhupada went to some really crazy places. Why? Faciled. To facilitate others coming to Krishna consciousness. So we're all Prabhupada Nugas, so we should remember that this temple is to facilitate everyone. Everyone. We shouldn't discriminate. Lord Chaitanya is famous, right? He didn't discriminate. Chaitanya Charitamrita says who was a fit and who was an unfit candidate. He didn't discriminate. And one of the difficulties that comes along sometimes, we become a little, we get a little Krishna conscious, and we start discriminating. Prabhu, you should listen to what I said. You came to the temple on July 1st. I came on June 15th. That means I'm a solid 2 weeks your senior. Isn't it? So many examples like that. So we shouldn't think like that. What's our philosophy? We are the das and a das and a das and a das and a das. Servant to the servant to the servant to the servant. But we tend to start thinking, this is the nature of mature world. Pecking order. Pecking order. And in some parts of the world, it manifests as racism. Where I live in America, they have trouble with racism between different. If you go other parts of the world, it manifests as hatred of different religions. Europe has a long history of hatred of Jewish people. The Holocaust was a result of that. You go other parts of the world, it's tribalism. Right? Jai Shishi Gwanitai. I should have said Jai Shishi Gornitai's curtain. That's what I should have said. I have to wear Jai Shishi Gornitai's curtain. It's a nice curtain, by the way. But the deities are much more beautiful than the curtain. I told Acharya Ratna, actually, honest fact, you're so fortunate of such beautiful deities here. Deities are beautiful everywhere, but some places are even more beautiful. So I walked in last night, just drove 5 hours from Mayapur. I was kind of tired. And Acharya Ratna said, it was 10 minutes, let's have darshan. So I'm kind of walking through, okay, we have darshan. Then I stuck my head in the door. I was like shocked. I was like shocked how beautiful the deities are. I told I don't use this word very often. I said they took my breath away. I never use that expression, but I felt that. Shishi Gornitai Ki. And they look so happy. They're just like dancing away in ecstasy. So beautiful. Astonishingly beautiful. So we have to bring other people here to show them how beautiful they are. That's our mission. And the best way well, not the best way, but an important quality of doing that is when people come, they should also feel no discrimination. No discrimination. I was reading something the other day. Prabhupada was explaining early on about the offenses to the holy name. The first offense is to blaspheme. The devotees have dedicated their lives to propagation of the holy name of the Lord. Prabhupada said, therefore, we should not criticize the Christians or the Muslims. If you do that, it's blasphemy. One should not offend the Vedas or literature pursuant to the Vedic version. What's literature in the pursuance of the Vedic version? It's not the newspaper, right? It's not India Today. What is that literature? It's like other shastras. They're also bringing us to understand God. So we should be very careful because there's such a tendency to become proud. The world does not need more proud religionists. It's like people that are proud because of their religion. That's like one of the greatest sources of conflict in the world. You become a little proud. You get a little tiny realization, little tiny information about God. You become proud. Oh, I learned one shlok. Or I'm chanting the Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra, which came from the most degraded people. Just see, I'm one of the most degraded people because the Maha Mantra is delivered. Then I should become humble. If I'm one of the most degraded people, then I should think my duty is to save others who are similarly fallen. Not that I get a little bit of, and it's big danger. ISKCON's been through many crises because devotees or sometimes communities become proud. And when you become proud, you forget the essence and you become absorbed in the externals. You start thinking, what kind of shoes you wear is more important than are you taking the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. You start thinking, and no criticism to the exalted renunciates here, but one can start thinking that, the color dhoti I have is more important than the spirit in my heart. One can start thinking, oh, I'm a Prabhupada disciple. Everyone should bow down to me because I took initiation, but shouldn't it be to some extent if I'm representing Prabhupada, right? To what extent am I representing Prabhupada? That's the important point. So we have a very, very sacred mission. We have to be careful. So, with the 11 minutes left, today's verse. You all inspired me so much. I've got a little spontaneous there. So it's an interesting chapter. Krishna teases Rukmini. This is like the sublime scripture we believe, we feel, we experience in the whole world. And the name of the chapter is Krishna teases Rukmini. Sounds like a kid's story, right? It's like Jack and Jill went up the hill, you know? Krishna teases Rukmini. But it's such a phenomenal insight because Vaishnava philosophy, as Prabhupada would often say, it's not dry, it's not impersonal. But everything in this world actually reflects the spiritual world. You know, Bhagavad Gita, right, says it's like material was like a banyan tree, upside down on the side of the water of the river. So in the spiritual realm, as we're learning here, there's persons, there's relationships, there's friends, there's family, and we learn in this chapter there's teasing. We're learning that there's teasing. But the difference is that everything's connected to Krishna. So just like here, we see sometimes, you know, between parents and their children, or friends and friends, or between spouses, or, you know, god brothers, there's sometimes teasing goes on. If it's done in the right spirit, sometimes you have to be careful. It can become materially infected with you know, I'm teasing you, but actually I'm trying to pull you down. Teasing should lift you up. It should leave you feeling encouraged and appreciated and loved. It shouldn't be you're teased in a way. And it's important. We all should know in this world, we're all like broken parts, you know. We all have a connection with Krishna. But in this world, because we're not aware of that connection with Krishna, we know something's missing in us. And we're all very sensitive because of that. Probably each one of us, you know, if you made a list, what could someone say to you that would really hurt you? You know, all of us have that. Or what hurt you in the past? You know, we may say, you know, a teacher called me up in front of the students and made fun of me when I was in 5th grade, right? And we still remember that. Or my uncle was mean to me and he slapped me one time harder than he should have. Or my mother ignored me one, you know, whatever, you know. We all carry these things. Or, you know, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, you know. I need glasses. I have glasses, but I still can't read the verse, whatever, you know. These things are always there because we're not connected with Krishna. So just as an aside, we should be careful teasing, just like joking. There's joking to bring people down, and there's joking to lift people up. So a good rule of thumb, we talk about that in the communications course. If you're going to make a joke, you know, if you're a Bengali brahmachari, then make jokes about Bengali brahmacharis, not Gujarati brahmacharis. Because they'll be offended. Unless you're really, really, really close friends. Even then it's best, you know. If you're an American householder, you can make jokes about American householders. Don't make jokes about American sannyasis, you know. Because then it's in a spirit of affection. And if we're not careful, people can be hurt. So that's just a quick thing. But when it's done right, teasing brings pleasure. Though we can even see Krishna himself. He thought he was teasing Rukmini in a way that she would appreciate. She didn't understand it, and she fainted. So even Krishna has to be a little careful how he teases, you know. So we should also think, oh, let me be careful how I'm teasing someone to make sure. And if we're not sure they got it right, we should make sure, you know, we go over to them and respectfully say, Prabhu, I was just trying to, you know, some joking words. I hope I didn't offend you. Please accept my obeisances. I so much appreciate your association. We're so much benefited. So we should be careful because the hole that's there in our heart, we should be helping people fill that hole with Krishna and not accidentally making it bigger. You know, very, very important. So here in this verse, Rukmini is responding to one of the Lord's statements where she's saying only relationships between equals can be happy. And it's an interesting comment because, of course, it's somewhat true. Krishna said it, so we know it's somewhat true. She's saying why, in one way she's interpreting differently how it's not true. But, you know, it is somewhat true in this world. If like in terms of they're talking to a, you know, a marriage relationship, If he's too rich or she's too rich or she's too beautiful or he's too beautiful or he's too educated, it's hard to be happy. And it's interesting, there's one verse, and I don't know what it is, I read it a long time ago. It's in the Bhagavatam someplace. Prabhu even says, he was talking about this, the need to be similar. And he said, therefore, it's very important that a demoniac boy should be married to a demoniac girl so they can be happy. I was so shocked when I read that, you know? And I was thinking, this is the mercy of the pure devotee. Like even somebody with demoniac tendencies, let them be happy, you know? At least they should have a happy marriage, you know? So, so it's an important point, you know, here that people, you know, they should have similar natures. But in terms of this thing, in terms like in ashrams, if people are devotees, then it's less important. But it's not unimportant. Too many times situations happen where devotees think, okay, you're a devotee, he's a devotee, she's a devotee, everything will be fine. That's not necessarily true. Sometimes there's pressures from outside or different things. You know, they talk about like, you're kind of a story, Europeans, it was one couple, and they were like, marriage is completely falling apart. So they went to some marriage counselor. So they asked, marriage counselor said, what's the problem? And the man said, she doesn't respect me. And the counselor said, why do you say that? He said, because every time she cooks homemade bread, she always gives me the end piece, the hard piece. She gets the soft inside bread. The kids get the soft inside. I get the hard piece. And she looked at him in front of the council. She said, what are you talking about? In my family, my father loved the hard piece. So out of respect for you, I give you the end every single time. It's the best part of the bread. I never take it. I never give it to the kids, only for you. So then they realized, oh, there's a little cultural difference here. So these cultural differences are important. But, you know, when it mentions here that between friends, they need to be the same stature. Devotees are understanding, I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Where's the question of social status? There's no social status. I'm everyone's servant. I'm everyone's servant. So, and also it's described in the Gita, Krishna says if you want to be dear to him, you should be the friend of all. He says that a few times, the friend of all. Sometimes we think that means I go out and I preach, I give everybody a book. You know, and if they're my social status, I'm more friendly. And if they're lower social status, maybe I'm less friendly. What social status? We have no social status. You know, this lifetime, maybe we're this or that. You know, we could be a germ. Well, not everybody here because you've been chanting Hare Krishna, but you can fall very easily. Very easy. So we should be very humble. And and remember that Vaishnavas are friends of everyone. So another point, looking at this statement about how only relationship between equals, it's not true at all. It's actually not true at all because it's being pointed out here. This is devotees' comment to the world. You actually can't be happy. You can have like surrounded by friends perfectly matched with you, in a company perfectly matched with you, in a ashram perfectly matched with you, a house perfectly matched with you. What does it mean perfectly matched? It means perfectly matched to whatever your senses are. Like I was in Kuwait just before the lockdown. Like here, it's nice. You have all these beautiful big windows. Sunlight comes through. It's very refreshing. Anybody been in Kuwait? You know how big the windows are in Kuwait? They're like this big. You know why they're that big? Because it's so hot. You want to block out the sun. You want to block out the sun. So in other words, in a certain body, in a certain place in the world, my senses say a small window is very nice. You go somewhere else, your senses say, I need a big window. But the soul is not saying I need a big window. The soul is not saying I need a little window. It's just my senses. It's just my mind. So even I get a little window, I'm thinking, oh, should have been a little smaller. Or I get a big one, I'm thinking, oh, it should have been a bit bigger. You know, you get a nice car, the mind's saying, oh, I should have two. Right? There's a story I quote all the time. There's a famous family in America, Rockefellers. They had all big oil people, big oil people. So one time some reporter or someone asked the founding father, he was rich, fabulous, like Tata, you know, like up there. Number one richest person, maybe in the world, definitely in America at the time. And they asked him, how much money is enough? You know what he said? How much money is enough, Mr. Rockefeller? He said, just a little bit more. Isn't that great? It's good. It's like, he said that just for Bhagavatam classes in the future, you know. Krishna arranged that. We can all tell that story. It's like, it's right out of the Shastra, you know. It's like lust. It's never sad. I just need a little bit more. You know, he owned, at one point, the whole government had to break up his company. It was too big. He owned almost all of the oil fields. He owned all of the refineries that turned it into gas, and he owned all the gas stations. Most. He had like a big monopoly. And the government, you know, it was like a big fight with the government, becoming too powerful, exploiting too many people. But even you have all of that, and you're thinking, I need a little bit more. So many examples. A zillion. Alexander the Great, right? Conquered the whole world of his time. Most of it. Had trouble here in India. But then he, you know, what good did it do? He still died. He lost everything. Prabhu went to France, and they showed him like there's something called the Arc de Triomphe. They built it as the triumph of one of Napoleon's battles. And Prabhu said, so the Ark is there, France is there, where's Napoleon? I had something that, I don't know many people know this. I went to Moscow a few years ago, and we're driving down the street, I'm looking around, and I don't know if I was like chanting or maybe a little sleepy or something, but I looked up, and I saw the Arc de Triomphe. Arc de Triomphe. I thought, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm not in Paris. What is that? I said, this looks just like the Arc de Triomphe. And they said, yeah, we built it when we defeated Napoleon. So they built this big ark about their, you know, big gate about their triumph, right? But then they met the Russians. They got defeated by the Russians. So the Russians built one. They must have known what the other one looked like. But anyway, so they built one. So that's why Rukmini say nobody can be happy here. You know, in the end of the purport. In fact, only those who have given up all such material conceptions of sense gratification and have taken exclusively to the Lord's loving service can understand who the real friend and companion is, Lord Sri Krishna. So that's what we want to do. We want to come to that stage. In the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, the exact verse is only when one who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there's no doubt. So that's what we're all doing here. We are in the conviction business. We are trying to raise our conviction and our faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that He is our best friend, that if we surrender to Him, we don't need anything else. Right now, we're kind of like, we have one foot in the boat. I just took the boat across the Jalangi yesterday, and everybody's jumping, and I'm thinking, okay, it's like, so you put one foot, I'm thinking, okay, but what if I put one foot there, one foot here, and the boat moves, and I go down, right? Arjuna asked the same question. What's your position, right? Aren't you like a ribbon cloud if you're not successful? And Krishna said, no, you're okay, you're safe. But we're like that, you know, we're like a little bit still or large, still in the material consciousness, but realizing that it doesn't satisfy us and trying to become Krishna conscious and trying to become convinced. So Krishna himself, he recognizes this in the 10th chapter. He tells us, yes, spiritual life means becoming convinced. And when you become convinced, then you can fully surrender to me. And as he says so many places, when we surrender to him, then we become happy. So as Prabhupada said so many times, hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times, gradual process of Krishna consciousness. And we can gradually become Krishna conscious if we're very, very careful to associate with devotees as much as possible. And we can't completely avoid materialistic people. I mean, there is a road between the temple and Newtown, but probably we have to go over there now and then. I remember when I first came, there was no other buildings here. It was like this. You're driving through this. It's almost like Disneyland, like these bright lights. And I thought, wow, this is not the Calcutta that I knew. Everything, big building. You're driving. All of a sudden, pitch black, ISKCON. I was thinking this is like some type of Lakshman Reta. It's like you crossed over into another realm. But we still have to go into that realm. And that realm's coming here. And why are we in this realm? Because Prabhupada wanted us to be here. Why did Prabhupada go to New York? And where did he go next? Montreal. And where did he go next? London. And from there, he went to all the big cities. Generally, spiritual life, you don't go to the big cities. That's where Maya is. Why do you go to the big cities? That's where all the temptation is. Because we're not about avoiding temptation. We have to do that, of course. We're about giving Krishna. We're about bringing Krishna into people's lives. So how do we do that? We have to be convinced that Krishna is the goal, and we have to remain strong. And the main way we remain strong is we association with devotees. Very, very important. Take full advantage of the association with devotees, and they will always be protected. And I'll just end with this. Part of association with devotees is we need to create a culture where we can, to use an American expression, call each other out. So, somebody sees Anuttama doing something that's not so good, you shouldn't think, well, Anuttama is a Prabhupada disciple, we can't say anything to him. What I would hope you would think is Anuttama is a Prabhupada disciple, he's precious, we have to say something to him. Or if we see each other having a little difficulty in spiritual life, we should think, how can I help? How can I help this other devotee? How can I help strengthen them? And as Prabhupada said, don't be surprised who leaves Krishna consciousness. Be surprised who stays. So in a similar sense, we shouldn't be surprised who struggles in Krishna consciousness. Did Arjuna struggle in Krishna consciousness? He struggled. I mean, look at the picture. He is in big-time lamentation. Modern people talk about this is like a, nervous breakdown. He's a nervous breakdown. And then Krishna tells him what to do, and he's all excited. And then there was a few points in Mahabharata, in the battle, when certain things went the other way. He lost it again. Krishna had to kind of like encourage him again. And as explains in the Bhagavatam later, the whole Leela when he was guarding the cowherd women, he's guarding Krishna's wives, and these, cowherd men seem to be, they defeated him, and then he's realizing, my only shelter is Krishna's instruction. My Gandiva bow failed me, this failed me, my only shelter is Krishna. So we have to create a culture that's very loving, very supportive of each other, appreciative of each other, forgiving of each other, and at the same time, expecting each other to maintain proper standards. Again, compassionate. We have to be very, very compassionate and forgiving. But at the same time, we expect honesty. We expect cleanliness. We expect respect for all living entities. We respect humility, all those different things. And that we should encourage each other and try to be examples of those. And never think, because I'm a devotee of Krishna, now whatever I do is okay. That's not Maya. That's Maya in the form of a big snake grabbing with their fangs in our head. If we think, now I'm a devotee of Krishna, because of that, whatever I do is okay. We should think, I'm trying to become a devotee of Krishna, which means I have to make sure everything I do is okay. You see the difference? It's not that because I'm a devotee, I think I'm a devotee, I can do anything and it's okay. No. I have to make sure whatever I do is correct because I'm a devotee. Okay? Very important. We'll avoid a lot of problems. And your generation is not going to have my generation around much longer to remind you that. And, also you should study the history. we did a lot of exciting things. It was a lot of fun. And we also made a lot of mistakes, and all of you should avoid our mistakes. You should be grateful that we did our phase of pioneering. We're about like those runs, what do they call it, where they pass the torch? relay race. So we ran the first 100 meters. And many of us are a little attached. We don't want to give up the torch, but we're slowly giving up the torch. We may drop the torch, and your job is to pick it up and take it the next 100 meters. But also your job is to look and see, wow, look at those first 100 meters they ran. They jumped that hurdle very nicely. Ooh, they crashed into the wall over there. Let's make sure we don't crash into the wall. Not to think, oh, look at them, they crashed in the wall, ha, 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 or boo, 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 or they're bad, we're good. Wait, oh, I'm never going to crash into a wall. You think like that, you'll crash into a wall within 3 steps. You won't just crash into a wall. You'll fall into a pit 10 feet deep. You'll be down at the bottom of the pit going, hey, I thought it was running, but now I'm in the bottom of a pit. So we should learn from the past, the good, like they say, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, you're intelligent devotees. We should study that history. We should learn what worked well. We should learn, you know, the spirit that Prabhupada gave. We should learn whatever mistakes were made. And then according to, based on those principles, you'll face different unique situations. So you do the best with your situation. And then you pass the torch on to the next. It's like we have the parampara here, you know. These are all such amazing, unique individuals. What Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did is unique. Nobody did it the way he did, but he carried the torch. Very different from Gaura Das Babaji. Very different. Very different. Which is very different from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I mean, he was such a pioneer, amazing, amazing person in that time and place. But they expertly understood time, place, and circumstance and how to light the fire of Krishna consciousness, what's best at that time. So when you look at our generation, you know, we tried to do a few things. We made a lot of mistakes. Don't think we didn't. Don't buy into the illusion that we did not make mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes. So learn from those mistakes. Make sure you don't make mistakes. Correct your mistakes now. And we'll carry the torch on together. So Prabhu, should I stop talking so everyone can run out or take some questions or what to do? Okay, a few questions. Ajita Prabhu. He wore his most fancy coat for asking fancy questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, for the last, 10 years I have seen you, you've always had this very positive disposition, smiling, high energy. At the same time, we know that when you're a GBC and holding a million leadership positions, you get blamed for every problem and so much personal sacrifice. And that scary verse that when Krishna really loves you, it takes away everything from you, right? I know you have gone through that personally in a big way. And yet I have seen you on hard days and good days, and you maintain that disposition of happy, blissful, cheerful, and picking everybody up. So how does someone like myself aspire to get there, and what does it take? What are some things you have learned along the way to get to that kind of mentality?
Well, first of all, I don't think I am. But if you feel like that, that encourages me to continue to try. First of all, despite its luster, which still has its alluring features, Maya knows our weakness, the material energy can't satisfy us. It just can't. It looks like it can, but it just can't. It can't. You know, Krishna is the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead, and our Acharya is explaining to us, it's kind of like you have this like water filter here. So that's like, maybe that's like the one source of pure water on this property. And it's there and it's free and it's available for everybody. And there's, you know, there's 10 spigots, enough. You don't have to stand in line. It's just constantly. But we go, I want water somewhere else. So, you know, we go out to the pond and we drink some, we move the green stuff away and drink some water. And, you know, we go and we find a rock someplace. We try to squeeze some water out of the rock, or, you know, we find an empty cup someplace. But no, the water's right there. It's right there. That's Krishna. I mean, I don't have that realization, but that's what the Shastra says. That's what the Acharyas say. And it makes sense philosophically. And it's such a beautiful, 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 beautiful ideal. You know, there's a supreme, all-attractive person whose pastimes are unlimited and unlimited pleasurable and full of unlimited variety. And everything we see here is just a reflection of that. I mean, why is it so attractive? The material world's attractive because it's a reflection of reality. So one thing is, as Krishna says, we have to become more and more convinced, you know, that there's no pleasure there. That's one thing. And then, because that gives us a little determination. And then I think a really, really, really important thing, and a lot of people talking these days, we have to become, you know, more Prabhupada-centric, and we understand our relation with Prabhupada. I think that's very important now and going in the future. We have to really study Prabhupada's life. You know, like now Prabhupada Lilamrita is there. I personally find like Mukunda Maharaj's biography, Prabhupada's very beautiful, Vishama Sundar. When we read about the sacrifices Prabhupada underwent, you know, it's amazing. Like in Mayapur, in the Samadhi, there's one of the relief, and it's Prabhupada at the printer. And if you read the history, actually, sometimes Prabhupada go to the printer and get his Back to Godhead printed, and maybe later the books, but definitely with the magazine. The printer would say, you know, Swamiji, have you eaten yet? No, I haven't eaten. Okay, sit. Let me bring somebody. No. We have to print it. He's printing a magazine, and then he's going out selling himself. He's not having much results, very little result. Then he's not eating. I mean, some of us, you know, we all maybe once or twice a big festival, you skip a meal, but you know, Prabhupada was, you know, not eating in order to print those magazines. So Prabhupada went out in the street and he's gored by a cow. And described, he was thinking, Krishna, why? Not that Prabhupada also sometimes didn't, you know, Krishna, why are you letting this happen, that happen? He translated the whole Bhagavad Gita. He had the whole thing, he had a whole comedy, he had a whole Bhagavad Gita ready to go. And his wife was stolen, or I think his wife sold it, right? She sold it. Imagine that. How many, I don't know, I've never read how long it took him. They just kind of mentioned that. But what, weeks, months, years? After hours, after work, before taking care of his kids and paying the bills and everything else. And it's gone. He didn't quit. He did another one. I mean, Krishna, why? Pure devotee, came to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Why are you making it so tough for him? Partly to glorify Prabhupada, and also just to demonstrate to us, you know, the kind of determination we have to have. So that's a big part of it. You know, I know during the lockdown COVID, I read like the first volume of Lilamrita from the beginning to the end, and then I read it again because I thought I'm going to miss too much. And then I read the second volume from beginning to end, and the third volume. I don't think I read all. I've definitely read that book more than any other book. But for me, that's a tremendous source of inspiration. I'm like everybody here. I didn't have a lot of personal association with Prabhupada. I came a little late. I came in 75. I saw Prabhupada once in India in 76. So a lot of the older devotees have these personal memories. I don't have any personal memories other than when I, you know, got my beads and all that. And that was flickering. but Prabhupada's Leela is very, very inspiring. And I think that's one thing that's really, really critical. So just one, being convinced that, you know, we had a Buddhist friend who was a professor at a university in Colorado. He was telling us about some story. He was in some Buddhist satsang. You know, their meditation, they just sit and stare at the wall. It's really dry, really tough for hours sometimes. He said he was like sitting in the satsang for a few hours, and his mind just said, I can't do it anymore. His mind like kind of snapped. He said he got up and he just walked out the door, and he said he walked for like a mile or so. And then he started thinking, where am I going to go? It's just Maya out there. So he turned around and came back, sat down again. You know? So I think that's part of it too. And then maybe the last part, just is such a beautiful concept. I mean, we eat the best food. We have beautiful music. I mean, there's other places maybe, but in ISKCON, everybody comes and sits together for an hour in the morning to talk about how do we become pure? How can I give up envy? How can I learn to be a selfless servant of others? How can I overcome lust and not want to see others or things as objects of exploitation? How can I learn to control my pride? Not just we talk about, we try. And then how can I go and share it with others? I mean, that's like George Harrison said, I'd rather be with these guys than those guys. I think that's a little bit of it. But thank you. But then I aspire to do that. Also in the communications course, we talk about we should try to appreciate at least 2 people every day. And there's this expression, Mother Teresa, actually, one of your fellow country women, she said, none of us can do great things. We can only do small things with great love. And actually, you're all instruments of Krishna's love. You know, that's actually who you are. You're instruments of Krishna's love. You give Krishna pleasure, and we give pleasure to other living entities by connecting them. And probably all of us, same way I said, list a thing where your heart's been broken by something. Probably each one of us, we could go back and mention 2 or maybe just 1, 2, 3 events where some spiritual person or a devotee particularly, touched us in some way, showed us a little extra compassion, a little concern, and that changed our life. Maybe not even devotee. I remember some people I met when I was searching, that gave me like my production guru without they didn't know it was Krishna. But boy, did they help me. And without their help, I'd be lost. So each and every one of you, the way we act, the way we smile, the way we interact with people, the kindness we show to people, a genuine endeavor, invite them to the temple, try to share a book, just being kind. A lot of people, there's no kindness in their lives. And when you walk out with your dhotis and your neck beads and your tilak and just being kind to people, and they get an impression, oh, those Vaishnavas, they're so kind. How are they like that? Maybe I want to be with those people more. I may be a meat eater or this or that, but I want to be with those people. That it changes people, really changes people. One more question? Time? I'll try to have a shorter answer. That was an unfair question. It was too good of a question. So. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for your nice lecture. Srila Prabhupada Ji has established 1008 temples around 11-12 years. But now in 11-12 years, we are not established only single temple.
But Prabhupada established 108 and what else? I didn't hear. What's the question? Well, what's this temple? Are you affiliated here?
These are many times.
But aren't you here? How long have you been here? 1 year. Did Gorni Tai come while you were here?
6 months.
Very good. Thank you for bringing them. You contributed. If you ask Srila Prabhupada, you opened so many temples, Prabhupada would say, I have not opened temples. I've only assisted my spiritual master. He said many times, all the credit goes to him. So that's our Vaishnava understanding. It's not that I did something or I didn't do something. I just want to try to help. Whatever way I can. And if we help, then Krishna uses us as instruments. So in one sense, we should feel, yeah, Prabhupada did so much, I want to do more. But we also should feel, I want to do more the way Krishna wants me to do more. Like sometimes I think, what's the story of, I don't know the backstory, it's probably there somewhere. Abhimanyu, why 16? How come why didn't he get to live like grandfather Bhishma? Live such a long life. But he had his destiny, he had his seva. So Abhimanyu was a great hero for a short period of time. And the father of Parikshit Maharaj. Eternally, Bhishma had long life, so many headaches, so many problems. Or Kishore Das Babaji, you look externally, where's the manifestation of what he did? He kept the tradition alive, Prabhupada opened so many temples. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established the Gaudiya Math. There's many Gaudiya Maths still going. We're very grateful to our cousins, yet they had so many challenges. But his contribution was still wonderful. Prabhupada opened, we don't know the future of ISKCON. Can we guarantee ISKCON is going to be here in 25 or 100 years? You can by your service. You can by fixing problems. You can by cooperating together. You can guarantee. But you can't just say, yeah, it's going to happen automatically. Not if we mess up. The Gaudiya Math had so many problems. Are we sure? Why are we sure it won't happen to us? As long as we follow his instructions. We cooperate together. We chant sincerely. We associate with devotees. But if we take it for granted, so whatever little bit you do, it's important. And the fact is, I should say that. My experience is, you meet one person and tell them about Krishna. If you are completely focused on Krishna and helping that soul become Krishna conscious, in that moment you experience Krishna is there with you all the time. And he may want you to open 100,000 temples. He may want you to wash 100,000 pots. But it's all okay if it's for him. And there's no difference. Prabhupada said, Vyasasthana said, the deity is marble, the floor is marble. Someone who dresses the deity, someone who washes the floor, there's no difference. They're both Krishna. See, but our materialistic mentality is, I don't want to wash the floor, I want to dress the deities. I don't want to dress the deities on Friday because nobody's here. I want to dress the deities, some temples, on Sunday when everybody comes, because then they'll all see who dressed the deities. Well, actually, I shouldn't say, but it was me. Prabhupada was in Atlanta once meeting. There was one of the big cities for book distribution. Prabhupada met with the book distributor, special darshan. One devotee said, Prabhupada, what service pleases you the most? You know, like, pat me on the back, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, when you love Krishna. That pleases me the most. Not when you're a book distributor or a pujari or a manager or a sannyasi or you got 15 kids or a teacher or whatever. When you love Krishna, that's what pleases me. And there's nobody's barred from that. Everybody has full opportunity. One more question? Otherwise, everybody fast because it's Ekadasi or Acharya Radha? Are you all going to take prasadam now? Am I keeping you from prasadam? Okay, one more.
Thank you, Prabhu, for this nice class. Prabhu, like we hear that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement will go on for 10,000 years. So we see Prabhupada disciples now, they may be leaving the planet in some years.
We are leaving one after another.
So
tick, 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 tick. But
So
don't be foolish. You might leave before me. Don't waste your time.
So while like we see we have so much of guidance present in form of your experience with Srila Prabhupada and so many, we can take your guidance, all the disciples of Prabhupada. But once it is over, this period is over, uh, how do you think will be, what will be the guiding force and for this movement, and how we can, what principle we should stick to so that we can remain cooperating?
Yeah, very nice question. Well, I mean, there's a lot of answers to that. Prabhupada, famous story. Well, Prabhupada specifically mentioned that your love for me will be shown, he told all of his disciples, by how you cooperate after I'm gone. So in the same way, your love for Prabhupada and for Prabhupada's disciples, all of them, Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, uncles, aunts, all of that, will also be shown by how you cooperate. And the test for you to cooperate is going to be much harder than our test. Much harder. Much harder. And if you get through it, it's going to be more glorious. When Prabhupada left, there's a few people kind of stood up and said, okay, you know, it's me now. Because we didn't have much understanding of what it meant to be guru. Now we've had, 40 years of understanding what it means to be. Prabhupada said, quote, regular guru. There's a difference between the founder charya and the regular guru, in which we haven't done such a very good job of understanding that. He's always the founder charya. Everyone has a relationship with him. His books are going to be the books, as you said, for the next 10,000 years, His murti is going to be in the temple. Nobody else's murti is going to be there. All the pictures that we put up there, those are great souls. Those pictures are going to be gone. There's going to be other pictures. Gurus are going to come and go. Sannyasi is going to come and go. GBC is going to come and go. Prabhupada is always going to be there. So that's one thing, making sure that we keep Prabhupada in the center. Because Prabhupada answered all the questions. You look at how Prabhupada dealt with so many things. Someone told me recently, actually it was Prabhupada disciple. No, not Prabhupada disciple. It was a story. Prabhupada was with Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, who was the head of the BI. And he was asking Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, I have this one little division, Bhaktivinoda Institute. There's so many problems, there's so many headaches, so many conflicts, so many challenges. And I become, a little discouraged. He said, but I see you. He said, you get the whole movement. So many problems, so many things go wrong, How do you possibly deal with that? And I'm paraphrasing. I have to go back and get the exact thing sometime. But Prabhupada said, problems? I don't see any problems. I only see opportunities of service to my spiritual master. That's powerful. That's powerful. So we have to see. So he taught us these things. And of course, he's glorious because he's coming in the parampara. And he's glorious because he continued the parampara. We can't swing too far the other way either. We can't say, well, he's so glorious, no more gurus. Excuse me, he did not come to upset the system. He came to fulfill the system. And we can't say, well, he's so special, he's on his own, and he's not represented. He's so special because he perfectly represented the tradition. So we really have to understand that in depth. And I think that's the main thing. He said, cooperate together. And then he told Giriraj Maharaj a famous story in the middle of the night. Maharaj came to him and said, Prabhupada, will it go on? And Prabhupada asked him. And he said something like, yes, Prabhupada, if we're sincere, if we chant. Prabhupada said, He was very near the end of his last few days. And then he said, organization and intelligence. And then Maharaj can understand that's all he had to say. So those are kind of like, cooperation, organization, intelligence, mixed with everything else Prabhupada told us. Chant good japa, all of those things, bhakti. And always remember, we're the servant to the servant to the servant. And I'll tell you something very practical. I can almost predict this, that when some of these Prabhupada disciples, especially those that have like a lot of disciples, when they pass away, some of their disciples are going to stand up and say, Guru Maharaj gave me special instruction. Guru Maharaj told me I'm special. Guru Maharaj told me that he wants me to carry on his legacy. Guru Maharaj didn't actually get along with the GBC. Guru Maharaj always wanted us to follow him as our first priority. And they're going to split off. And they're going to take a few, with all due respect, weak-minded and misguided disciples. Because the real disciples are going to say, Guru Maharaj has left. How do we continue as individual members of ISKCON and as God brothers and God sisters and followers of Prabhupada? How do we continue serving the mission given by Prabhupada that our spiritual master gave his life to try to satisfy, to try to, contribute to? That's going to be a big, I promise you, we've already seen it. We've already seen it. It's almost ludicrous sometimes. These people stand up and say, I'm it. Prabhupada didn't say that. He said, I'm the servant of the servant of the Lord Chaitanya. Even Lord Chaitanya said, Prabhupada, I'm the servant. So we have to be very careful. I was in Mayapur one year, one of the early gurus that fell away. And he actually sent some of his disciples, I can remember, he sent some of his disciples with a big bowl. They used to like have, maybe they still do, like rickshaws with like big sound system and batteries on the back, and super loud. So they're like, we're walking up and down Mayapur. Where the temple is now, there used to be a big park. So they were walking up and down the park. All disciples of so-and-so. You know, Guru Maharaj is going to Navadvip. All of you should come now. Guru Maharaj wants you to, come with him. It's like, I think a lot of people said, wait a minute. This is ISKCON. Guru Maharaj is who he is because of ISKCON. Without ISKCON, there would be no Guru Maharaj. Without Prabhupada, he wouldn't be a Guru Maharaj. His own qualification is that he served them. And now you're telling me to separate myself? And you're walking up and down with your microphone saying, come on, it's all sincere disciples. So devotees that weren't trained very well became a big crisis for them. And some of them went with him, later gave it up. That person, New Vrindavan, which is a wonderful place now, Kirtananda, people went the wrong way because they forgot, wait a minute, your only status is that you're connected to Prabhupada and through Prabhupada's mission. That's your only status. Otherwise, Punar Musika Bhava. So that's going to be a challenge for us. So when one of your godbrothers stands up and says, hey, I'm the one, throw some cold water on his face and tell him, Prabhu, you're Bhakta Rajiv. Without Prabhupada, without ISKCON, you're still Rajiv. Rajendra Nandana Das, Adi, whatever. Don't forget who you are. Your potency comes from being part of this collective community. And together we'll get through this problem of Guru Maharaj's passing or of all the Prabhupada disciples passing or whatever challenge that comes. We'll get through it together. But as soon as you think you're something special, that's the proof you're not special. As soon as you think you're special, that's the proof you're not special. Is that okay? Yeah. And the challenges are glorious because that's your opportunity to show Krishna that you're trying to love him. If there were no challenges, be easy. So like Prabhupada said, I don't see any problems. I only see chances for service to my spiritual master. So all the devotees of ISKCON, Newtown, Kolkata should remember that you're first and foremost Lord Chaitanya's followers, then you're the Parampara followers, then you're Prabhupada's followers, then you're servants of the servant of the servants. And we all have so many Siksha gurus. We may have different Diksha gurus, but we're all united trying to please Guru and Krishna and the founder Acharya. As long as we remember that, we'll be successful. We forget that, Punar Musika Bhava. Okay? So it's very serious. It's simultaneous, joyous and cheerful, and serious. Joyous and serious, both. Stop there. Thank you all for your patience. This is my last day in India. I'm flying out I'll be on a plane in 10 hours. And I feel this is a special treat to come here and associate with all of you and Srila Prabhupada's new temple and to see these beautiful, 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 beautiful deities. I don't know why. I don't know what special punya you've done to have such beautiful deities, but don't waste the opportunity. Again, Krishna's beautiful. Every deity everywhere is beautiful, but these are especially beautiful. And I don't say that everywhere I go. Maybe I should. I probably should. But here it's true. Okay. Jai Shishi Gornitai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Newtown Calcutta ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.